The theme for the month of March is trust. Usually the idea of trust is associated with a deity or a person. Those can be problematic. Many of us UUs don't believe in a deity, at least not one that can be known or understood. And trusting people, well, we're all just flawed human beings who mess up from time to time. Today we'd like to talk about trusting a process, the creative process, and in particular the process of the Zentangle drawing method. Next slide. What the heck is Zentangle, you may be asking? Zentangle was developed and trademarked 20 years ago by a married artist couple. They wanted everyone to be able to be an artist. They wanted an art form that required no drawing experience or skill, that was simple but not simplistic. Zentangle is non-representational. There's no up or down. Complex looking patterns are made of very simple, repetitive pen strokes. Next slide. The 5 elemental pen strokes used in all Zentangle patterns are in the acronym ICSO: a dot, a straight line, a C curve, an S curve, and a round shape. If you can control a pen well enough and see well enough to make those shapes, you can do Zentangle. The philosophy of Zentangle is there are no mistakes, only opportunities. Next slide. Once the pen work is done, a pencil is used for shading to create shadow and depth for a 3D effect. Next slide. The classic Zentangle method uses a 3.5-inch square piece of thick art paper called a tile. Small so that your drawing hand remains relaxed and stationary, while the non-drawing hand turns the tile, and small so it can be finished in about an hour. No drawing skill is needed, really. People who think they can't draw, once you somehow dragged them into taking the introductory lesson, are amazed that they can indeed produce a little 3.5-inch work of art. What else can you do that you think you can't do? Next slide. The different patterns are called tangles, and drawing them is called tangling. Step outs are the directions for a tangle, shown step by step. In your introductory lesson, you are taught 4 tangles and how to shade them. Next slide. There are hundreds of tangles. Step outs for them are easily found on the internet and video tutorials on YouTube. It's quite possible to learn and practice Zentangle entirely on your own through the internet. But some of us find joy in doing it in a group. 9 of us ORUUC Zentanglers are exhibiting in the halls this month, and we've collaborated on today's service. Zentangle has enhanced our lives, and we want to spread the good news. We offer an introductory lesson every time we meet for anyone who wants it. We meet every Sunday evening here from 5 to 7. We also meet in the social hall at 11:15 on the 1st, 3rd, and 5th Sundays during Faith Formation Hour. And today is the first Sunday. We're all set up in the social hall for you for a large group. Join us whenever you can.
Kurt Vonnegut famously reflected on the purpose of making art, advising us to, quote, practice any art, no matter how well or how badly, not to get money and fame, but to experience becoming, to find out what's inside you, to make your soul grow. I have always embraced this philosophy, dabbling in a wide variety of art forms, many of them quite badly indeed. In Zentangle, as in many other forms I have tried, I have found a deep pleasure just in the act of creating something, sometimes beautiful. I love to focus on small details. That's part of my personality, and this is a perfect art form for that kind of art. Simply put, I have fun. That's one of the reasons that I love Zentangle. But Zentangle has also offered me some unique gifts, different from other art forms I have tried. The focus on repetition and mindfulness, for example, makes Zentangle a meditative, even a spiritual practice. And I often pray or commune with the divine while I tangle. A few years ago, our minister advised us to find some spiritual practices of our own in our own lives. And that's when I started coming to Zentangle, and I'm very grateful for that. Moreover, while I'm an excellent focuser on small details, I often forget to pull back and look at large pictures. This has always been a problem for me. I get lost in minutia and forget the broader meaning of things. But Zentangle reminds us that all of these tiny details, in life as in art, are purposeful and multiplicative, becoming something more than the sum of their parts. Each tile I complete is a healthy reminder of this truth. The Zentangle process often startles me, in fact, with the magic that emerges from simple, repeated pen strokes. And finally, Zentangle has given me a community, a circle of friends and fellow artists that have made ORUUC my resting place at the end of each week. I look forward to my Zentangle group all week long, and I'm grateful for these relationships and for the art that inspired and strengthens them.
Thank you, Sheila. So, I often joke that I'm about 1 or 2 steps away at most from just knocking on random doors and asking people if they have a few minutes to talk about Zentangle. Now that I'm literally standing at a pulpit in a church on a Sunday morning talking about Zentangle, I think I have to stop making that joke. I think I'm there. The reason I am a Zentangle evangelist and the reason the Zentangle group put this service together and installed the show in the hallway, which please check it out, we are really proud of it, is that we found tremendous value in this method and we want to share it with you. And we promised the worship team that we wouldn't just make an hour-long recruitment video for Zentangle, which we then went and made an hour-long recruitment thing for Zentangle. But we also promised that we would talk about the value of trusting the process. In Zentangle, that means going through the steps that Nancy mentioned earlier, focusing on each new pen stroke rather than the one before it or the one after, and trusting that it's all going to come together in the end. But what does trusting the process look like outside of Zentangle world? It might start with gratitude. Gratitude is a really big thing in Zentangle. As you can see from this tile, slide please, from a Croatian Zentangle artist. Maybe it didn't make it through. Oh well, it was nice. Just imagine a really beautiful tile. Oh, there it is, cool, awesome. Anitsa Grabovic is her name, and I'm sure I mispronounced it, but beginning tanglers often want to skip the gratitude meditation that we begin with, and we don't let them because it's magic. Brother David Steindl-Rost is a Benedictine monk and an interfaith scholar, and he's made the practice of grateful living his life's work. And he says we get gratitude backwards, that we think we should be grateful for whatever's making us happy. Brother David says it's not happiness that makes us grateful, it's gratefulness that makes us happy. He wants us to cultivate the awareness that every moment in life is a gift. And he says we can do that by building what he calls stop signs into our lives. Things that let us stop, breathe, and truly appreciate not just the moment, but the new opportunities we're given with every single moment that we're alive. Opportunities to learn, to create, to help, to resist, to be kind, or more often just to enjoy whatever's going on around us. Zentangle is a pretty great stop sign, and it's one that's built entirely on the idea of gratitude. When we trust the process, we know that small steps count. We start by putting a little tiny dot with a pencil in the corner, each corner of our tile. It's not much, and it usually disappears by the time we're finished. But it gets us moving, and it gets us past that fear of a blank canvas. So small steps have value, and they add up. When we trust the process, we understand that the process matters more than the result. And this might be the biggest gift the Zentangle method can give us. It's a hard one to internalize. We're so focused on goals and results that we lose sight of the fact that most of our life is lived not in the attainment of the goal, but in the pursuit of it. The result or the goal is often not as fulfilling as we might have thought. You know, maybe you spend all year looking forward to your beach vacation, and then it rains the whole time you're there. Even if the result is everything you hoped it would be, what do? You move the goalpost, right? And you start working toward the next result, the next goal. But to trust the process is to value the process and to understand that the journey really does mean more than the destination. When we trust the process, we can be entirely present. We're not dwelling on the past. We're not anticipating the future. In Zentangle, all that really matters is the pen stroke that we're drawing right now. And we cultivate the habit of not worrying about any mistakes we think we made earlier or thinking about what the final piece is going to look like. When we trust the process, we realize that we have power. Next slide, please. There's a well-known art therapist named Sean McNiff. And in 1998, he wrote a book called Trust the Process, an artist's guide to letting go. In that book, he writes, "We think it is only the leaders and major creative personalities that have the power to change the world, and we overlook the powers of caretakers, maintenance workers, and housekeepers. The small and intimate aspects of daily nurturing and care affect the world in ways that we do not always see." When I read that, I immediately thought of all the members of ORUUC who nurture the church and the wider community every single day. When we trust the process and we keep showing up for each other, we know that those acts matter, even if we can't always see the impact. When we trust the process, we make peace with uncertainty. And this is a really, really big deal. Uncertainty is the source of a lot of our anxiety and fear. It's a key driver of something called cognitive distortions. And Harvard Medical School defines those as, see if this sounds familiar, as internal mental filters or biases that increase our misery, fuel our anxiety, and make us feel bad about ourselves. This includes things like labeling, where you might tell yourself something like, "I'm just not a creative person. You know, I just can't draw." It includes black and white thinking, and my personal favorite, catastrophizing, where you imagine the worst possible outcome for hours and hours at a time on loop. Learning to trust the process makes uncertainty manageable. Rachel Botsman is an expert on trust. She was the very first trust fellow at Oxford University. And she writes, "Trust is the remarkable force that pulls you over that gap between certainty and uncertainty, the bridge between the known and the unknown." She defines trust as a confident relationship with the unknown. So when we make those first little pencil dots on a tile, we don't know how it's going to turn out. And we're okay with that, or we're at least learning to be. All that really matters is that we get the most out of the process. And if things really go south on us, there's always another tile. Just like Brother David reminds us that if we fall short in one moment, we get another and another and another. That's the process of living. So as you leave this sacred space today and go out into whatever is happening out there right now, be like Harold with his big old purple crayon. Start somewhere, even if you don't know where you're going. If the path you're on isn't taking you where you want to go, leave it, make a new one. Every now and then, eat 9 kinds of pie for dinner. Feed the hungry. If you fall off a cliff, think really, really fast. Don't depend too much on authority figures. Trust your instincts, and always, always, always take something to draw with.